Hey guys, welcome to my 10 cards 1 kit for the Love from Lizi July card kit. Here are my card bases. On the white cardstock, I changed out the alcohol-friendly marker with my own cardstock. If you haven't checked out the unboxing and you would like to, I'll link it above. The kit is out of stock, so if you missed it, I'm sorry, but hopefully this video gives you some inspiration. This is the decoupage that came in the kit, so I'm just separating my pieces. The pieces are numbered, so it's really easy to put together. I love this kit. I love these types of things. It's so cute, and these, give you an extra element. It's different things you can do to your card really quickly. There's not much thought that needs to go into it. So in the kit came some foam squares, because you do have to use quite a bit of foam squares when dealing with these decoupage pieces, but totally worth it with the dimension. Now you could stop there, or you could keep going. Just because there's maybe 5 pieces to a decoupage sheet doesn't mean you have to use all those pieces, but I'm using them all. And sometimes this one came with an extra little image, so I had put that aside to use it later. It's kind of like a ephemera piece. I put that aside to use it on a later card because I like this image a lot. So there's that all put together. Here I've taken an embossing folder and just embossed some blue cardstock from my stash that happened to go really well with the color scheme of the decoupage sheet. And I'm just wrapping some of the ribbon that came in the kit around the paper, and I'm going to adhere this piece to my card base. And then go ahead and add tape adhesive to this piece and adhere that down. And then I go ahead and tie a bow, just to give it a little extra something, and I attach it to the side there. And then I will add some sequins. So even though the kit is sold out, I will go ahead and link to Lizi's shop if you want to check it out. She does do a kit each month if you're not familiar. She does do subscription services. For the subscription service, you buy the first and last month kit. Or, 2 kits, your first one and then your last one. So when you cancel, you'll still get one more. And make sure if you're in the United States or Canada that you go to the top right-hand corner and you change it to your dollar. If you're in the United States, you'll change it to US dollar. So it makes navigating the website a little bit easier when you can understand the prices. So there's card 1. For card 2, the stamp set that came in this kit is gorgeous, and I assume Lizi will have this available individually at some point, the stamp set, and I definitely think it's one to have in your stash. It's like an infinity stamp or a never-ending stamp. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. So here I'm stamping it out using my stamping platform, and I'm using Memento ink because I'm going to use some Copic markers. And so then you take the stamp and then you just lift it up and you move it to the right, to the top, to the bottom, wherever you want. I'm moving mine to the right. I line it up as best I can and stamp it again. And it's a continuous image. I mean, you could literally go on forever and ever and make this beautiful, huge image with this stamp. Mine is not lined up perfectly, but you can barely notice. Sorry, I'm hitting the camera with my platform. Dang thing is so big. So there you see a line where I didn't line it up perfectly. That's okay. So I have this Memento marker. It comes with 2 tips, a brush tip and then like a ballpoint tip. And my ballpoint tip is completely out of ink, which is very frustrating because that's the one I use the most. So I'm lightly taking the brush tip and I'm just kind of connecting some of these lines that are more noticeable. Once I color it and get it going, you can't notice it at all. Definitely use a Memento if you're going to use alcohol markers. So I currently have a D-stash going on my Etsy shop. It's been going on for a few days, but I still have quite a bit left available. And I had a D-stash because I bought a set of Copic markers. On Amazon, it comes in like set A, set B, set C, set D, set E. And one of the sets, set B, and these aren't cheap, had gone under $3. $3, I wish. 300. You get 72 markers for around 300 bucks, which is crazy, a lot crazy. But I saw that set B dipped below 300, so I bought it. I got 72 markers, and then I did a D-stash to recoup recoup the cost of the markers. But anyway, point is, I expanded my collection. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop using my Spectrums, because I know a lot of people comment that they love that I use the Spectrum Noir markers because they don't want Copics or can't afford them, which I totally understand. I can't really afford them either. I had to sell some things to get them. But I wanted to use my Copic markers on this. And I'm limited. I only have 72 colors. There are a million colors. So I was using what I had. And I think the color combinations I used worked out pretty good. I wanted something soft, but, you know, something somewhat realistic in the colors. So anyway, I'm showing the colors to the left. I sped this up a lot, so this video wasn't a million years long. It's over 30 minutes long, which typically is a little bit longer than I like for my 10 cards, 1 kit, but I definitely wanted to keep this coloring in. I had posted this image in the Left from Lizi group, and I think on Crazy Paper Chicks Facebook page. It's beautiful. I love this stamp so much. I mean, the stamp set could have only came with this image, and I would have been completely happy with that. So I'm just going to finish coloring it up, and then I will trim it out and color it. This white paper is the paper that came in the kit. It's alcohol marker friendly. You got 2 sheets, and like I said in the beginning, I had set them aside and saved them because I wanted to color with them and not waste them on card bases. So go ahead and kind of finish it all up. I really love the shells. I kind of had trouble coloring because I'm not a pro at shading and all that. But I really like oh gosh, what are they called? The starfish. The starfish, I think, look good. Anyway, so I trimmed it out. And then I took these 2 these 2 rectangle stitch dies, and I cut out a frame. If you don't have a frame die, you can always use 2 of whatever shape you want to create a frame. A big size and a smaller size. So here I embossed some blue cardstock from my stash. It's like a C texture something or other embossing folder from Stampin' Up. Adhere that to my card base, and then I'm going to take my white frame and go ahead and add tape adhesive, and then I'm going to adhere my colored piece to that, and then trim it up. I added fun foam to the back with some double-sided tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this piece to my card base. And then I have this Eileen's Tacky Glue. I got it from the Not Too Shabby shop, I'm pretty sure, a long time ago. And I have these glue pens in my drawer, and I never use them. And I'm like, why don't I use them? They're the best. I bring in another one later that I'll talk about. But I die cut the word thanks. This is from my stash 4 times. And I am just adding the layers on top of each other, which creates a really nice, almost like chipboard sentiment. You can use fun foam as well. It is cheaper, and then 1 shot of running the fun foam, there's the glue, through the big shot will do it. But fun foam tends to stretch, and even though I do like it and I will use it once in a while, this I find a lot easier to work with. It doesn't give as much as the fun foam. So that was a nice thick sentiment I added. And then I'm taking the Nuvo drops that came in the kit and just adding some little detail to my starfish. And then I will take it's not a jelly roll pen, but and then I take this gel pen to get to mark up the smaller dots where I didn't want to do the Nuvo drops, because on some of the smaller dots, the two of the things were like connecting. Two of the dots were connecting to make one blob. So here I'm just coming in with like a sparkle gel pen, jelly roll, and adding some sparkle to my shells. When it dries, you really can't notice it unless it hits the light, but it has amazing sparkle. It kind of has a silver tint to it. So I really love that card. So for card 3, here's another, oh gosh, what is it called? Decoupage piece. And I've already put it together. You saw me put together the first one. So the rest of them I do put together off screen due to time. I know I've had comments about that people wish my videos or my 10 cards were more detailed and all that. But like I've said before, I do keep them simple because it's so long. And when I upload the video, it's over 2 hours long. And to edit, take the time to edit to get it down to this, a manageable viewing time, it takes half the day. So I try my best to keep the cards simple and cut out unnecessary stuff that I may have already shown, or you can kind of figure out on your own just by looking at the card. If anyone was wondering why my cards are so simple. If I had all the time in the world, I would go in a little more in depth. But anyway, I've taken those strips of paper, some pattern paper. I use that specialty green paper to kind of add a trim to the green wood plank looking pattern paper. I take my decoupage piece and I adhere that down. This card is quite simple, but the decoupage pieces are great because they do create simple cards. They stand out on their own. You don't need a lot to distract from them, their cuteness. So look at that dimension. Woo! I added Let's Celebrate sentiment to the card using some fun foam, and that completed that card. So for card 4, this is one of my favorite cards. I'm taking some tea-dye distress ink, and I am just blopping some down on this paper. And I think I'm using the Copic friendly paper, the alcohol marker friendly paper. And my ink pad is probably running dry too, but it didn't do all that well with trying to blend. And here I'm like, let me go in with the Copic markers and see if I can add a little bit of shading. Yeah, you really can't tell. But that's okay. I'm just experimenting. Why not? And and this die came in the kit. And what's really cool about this die is that it's a one die, but when you cut it, it separates the ice cream cone with the ice cream scoop. So I'm like, this is perfect because it's easier for me to color. And then I take a glue dot and I adhere the two, the cone and the scoop together. And here I'm taking a glue dot and kind of folding it in half, and that's where I'm going to enter or put in the little chocolate piece. And then I used a scallop circle die to cut out some vellum on the top there, but actually I'm looking at the card and I ended up not using the vellum, so ignore that. So here are my two little chocolate pieces ready to go, my little ice cream cones. And instead I took a circle stitch die and cut out that green wood plank piece of pattern paper that came in the kit. Then I took the splatter dots pattern paper, cut that out using a scallop stitch rectangle die, adhere that directly to my white card base, and then I'm going to adhere this piece. I go ahead and pop it up with foam dots or Stampin' Dimensionals, whatever. Adhere that down, and then there's that pink, this right here, just pink piece of pink pattern paper. Woo! It's a tongue twister. And I cut that out with a smaller stitch die and just pop that on there. I thought the dots or bubbles, whatever, it went well with the background pattern paper. So I pulled out a stamp set from my stash. It was ice cream themed. So it says, I hope your day is sweet as you are. Just something to go with the ice cream. I feel like most people would have a stamp set that has ice cream something or other on it. that goes well with this die. And then I go ahead and adhere some sequins, and that will complete that card. So for card 5, I love this pattern paper, and I cannot waste it. So I cut out the center, and I put the center aside, because only the frame was going to show. The outside was going to be peeking out, and I didn't want to waste that whole centerpiece. So I go ahead and adhere this down to my card base. And then the ephemera I'm going to use, here's a striped piece of embossed paper that I embossed with a stripe embossing folder. I think it looks like beadboard. If you place it a certain way, I think it'll look like that. I don't know. That's one of my favorite embossing folders I love. So here's a piece of the ephemera that came from that first card that I kept. Here I'm adding the little bunting or banner stickers, the foam stickers that came in the kit. I'm just adding some to the corner. And then I pop up this little ephemera piece. Go ahead and adhere that down. And then from the same stamp set as the last card, I stamp my sentiment. It says, I hope your birthday is sprinkled with everything great. And this is just some yellow cardstock from my stash. And I use like chocolate chip ink or something. And then I go ahead and trim that off, trim it up. And adhere that down. And then I add some of these Nuvo drops, which I fell in love with making these cards. Just, they came out so perfectly. I love the bright white. They dry very opaque. I really like them. And that completes that card. So you can see where I just used that piece of decoupage on its own, and it worked out perfectly. So for card 6, I'm taking some Salty Ocean Distress ink and ink blending, just blend it out on this piece of paper that I cut out using a rectangle stitch die. I wanted this to be the sky. And then I wanted to try something. So here I'm taking some double-sided tape on this panel. And I'm adding it to the panel. And then I'm going to peel it all off. And this technique works really well with glitter. It's perfect with glitter. You burnish it in the double-sided tape. The glitter's beautiful. It doesn't come off. Perfect. I haven't done it in a long time, but I've done it in a few videos a year or so ago. Go ahead and take off the double-sided tape. And then I'm like, I'm going glitter sand, kind of similar in texture. I'm going to go ahead, well, sand is a little bit finer, but you get it. I'm going to go ahead and try burnishing the sand into the double-sided tape. Now, it did not go as I had planned. It worked, but a lot of the sand didn't want to stick to the tape. So in turn, you see my white paper through the sand. So if you do this technique, use a tan color paper. Don't use white unless you like this look. And like looking at my finished card, it is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, so I burnished what I could into the tape. Go in and take this piece of paper, adhere that down. And it doesn't come off. Like I'm holding the card now, rubbing the sand. What is burnished, it won't come off. Rubbing it, it worked out perfectly. But if I had it to do over, I would have chosen a darker color cardstock, since you can kind of see through. But I was very happy with the outcome either way. Just another way to use your sand. Go ahead and pop this, my little sand dune up. Adhere that down. So that looks really good. I really am happy with this card. This wood chip piece came in the kit. It did come with a little foam dot on the back, but I didn't feel like that was enough. So I added some foam squares, which are a little bit higher than that foam dot. So I didn't even bother taking the sticky off the foam dot. I just let it be. Adhere that down. Use a circle stitch die for my sentiment. Happiness comes in waves. And that is the sentiment from the stamp set. Adhere that down. And I adhere that down with foam dots, and it sticks perfectly to the sand. I'm kind of jiggling it, seeing if it would pop off the sand, and it's perfect. So I'm using that Aleene's Tacky Glue again, that glue pen, to adhere these little wood chip pieces to the sand, and those are stuck on there really good as well if you're worried about stuff sticking to your sand. And that will complete that card. Really cute. I love the way that turned out, and that sand gives it a nice texture. For card 7, here I'm using the bubble stencil. And what I did was I ink blended a spot on a piece of cardstock, and I got my paper towel wet, and I'm dabbing the stencil. I'm not necessarily a fan of stencils. I like subtle stenciling like that. I don't like a lot of white space that you can get if you use ink blend on top of a stencil. So I made some subtle bubbles. That was the goal, at least. Here I wanted a circle frame, so I'm using 2 circle dies to create this white frame. So there it is. And I kind of messed up on a certain area. I poked a hole through it trying to get it out of the die. But I'll cover that up. So I didn't have any acetate. So I'm using, or I was too lazy to get up and look for it. Either way. I'm just using the packaging from the stamp set. So I don't make shaker cards that much. I do with Queen & Company, but they have their own supplies, so I don't have a need really for acetate all that much. So in that case, packaging would work really well. I mean, I have enough stamps, so if I keep the packaging, it'll be perfect. So I go ahead and add some sand to my little bubble piece, because I'm going to put the other piece on top of this piece. So I add sand, and I'm pushing it down and getting it away from the edges, because I want to make sure that my piece on the right with the adhesive strips will flatten on the bubble piece. Whoa, I can't even speak anymore. I've reached my talk time limit. Anyway. So peel off the backing, go ahead and adhere that down and press it down and make sure it's really pressed down really good, because I don't want any sand leaking out. I may have added a little bit too much sand. Once it kind of settles, it actually is perfect. But here I was like, whoops, I've added probably too much. But anyway, so make sure that's adhered down so you don't have any escaping sand. I take 3 of the shell images in the stamp set and use this piece of crumb cake paper and go ahead and stamp out the images. And I'm using crumb cake ink. I adhere it to a white card base. And at this point, I'm like, oh, maybe that frame around the sand little shaker bit should have been crumb cake as well. But I think that white frame ties in nicely with the card base. And then once I glue down my little fish and my sentiment, I'm going to add Nouveau drops, the white Nouveau drops. So it ends up all tying together and kind of matching. But I think if you added the same color little frame for your circle as your card panel, that would have turned out nice as well. Go ahead and adhere my little fish down to cover up that hole I created when getting out that circle piece in my die. And then The World Needs More of You is the sentiment from an MFT stamp set of Essential Sentiments or something like that. And I go ahead and adhere that down and then add my little Nouveau drops. And then that will complete that card, which I really like. For card 8, I put together this I love this pattern paper with the little beach huts. I glued that, adhered that down. I take this piece of ephemera piece from the Decoupage, and I just used some of it. I used the little hut, and then I did the character layers, the little puffin and dog. again, showing you, you don't have to use the whole sheet of ephemera. I'm sorry, you don't have to use the whole sheet of the decoupage. You can use bits and pieces to create what you want. So I stamped that hello there from the same MFT stamp set, the Element stamp set, Essential Sentiments or something. Add some double-sided tape behind the sentiment because I don't want my adhesive to show through the vellum. And I'm using the vellum to make the pattern paper more subtle. That way my main image stands out, because if you stuck that main image to the pattern paper, it would be hard to see. It would kind of blend in. Go ahead and use some of the yellow ribbon that came in the kit and tie a bow. I attached a glue dot to help me kind of tie it. And then kind of straighten it up, and I will add some sequins to give it a little bit of sparkle. And then I speed this up quite a bit. You guys know how to add sequins. I use glue dots to add sequins. Never had any issues. You can use multimedia matte, glossy accents, whatever works for you. That completes that card. So for card 9, I punched out everything. I put it together. And here I'm taking this like block, sand block, and I am sanding the edges. When you punch out these, you get these little dots or little bumps where they connected to the other piece of paper, if that makes any sense. And the sand block just sands those right away, so you can have a clean, smooth edge. It doesn't look like you punched this out of something. I'm just taking some scrap pieces of pattern paper left over, kind of adhering them. I wanted to use my peel-offs, so I grab a couple peel-offs for the edges to kind of finish off the edge of this piece. This card was kind of like, let me pull my scraps out and use them. So use that paper up. I go in and take this red card base and adhere that down to my card base. And then I had this circle die that I cut out. It's just a frame. Here's that Nuvo. I used a Nuvo glue pen. Again, why am I not using that pen? I don't have to struggle with squeezing any glue out. It's just like a broad tip pen, and there's glue on it already. It's amazing. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave it out in front of my face so I remember to use it. So I go ahead and attach my little decoupage piece, and then I go ahead and add some of these white Nuvo drops, which again, I love. Make sure there's an odd number, and then that completes that card. So for card 10, again, I love these decoupage, so sorry, I'm using them quite a bit in the video, but they're just so cute. But I hope I used them kind of in a different way, just showing you don't have to use all of them, like I said. So I punch out what I want. Again, I'm kind of digging through my scraps. Go ahead and adhere that down, trim it up. I used a Hero Arts stamp set. It has an ocean theme to it, so it says, see you soon. This little pattern paper with the bunting or banners goes really well with a little beach house that has them tied up to the top, the roof line. Go ahead and attach that piece. I had these random circle vellum pieces. Go in and tuck those back in there, just to give it a little bit of interest, and then pop that on there, my little house, so cute. And then pop my sentiment on there with some Stampin' or foam dots that came in the kit, foam squares. And then that will complete card 10. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will show you here in a moment everything I have left over in the kit. There's the alcohol marker friendly paper, decoupage, peel-offs, pattern paper, specialty paper, stamp set, ephemera pieces, scraps, sequins, sand, all my elements, stickers, stencils, dots, etc. So here are still shots of the cards. Let me know what your favorite card was. This kit was absolute joy to work with. I love it. Sorry it is sold out. But definitely go over and follow Lizi on Instagram for sneak peeks. That will come up next month for her new kit. And check out the Facebook group. It's a great group, and you can get a lot of inspiration over there if you do get the kits. I mean, tons. So definitely go check that out. Thanks guys for watching. Thanks for your comments and your likes. It is appreciated, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.